Well, now it's time once again to focus on one of the Pirates, and this time I'm with a gentleman who joined the Pirates last year and has made a very successful start to his career with the Pirates, I have to say, Andre Compton.
Thank you very much.
Andre, I know that you were born in 1977 in Leeds, but as a young Leeds man, what was it that first attracted you to Speedway? Because Leeds isn't renowned as a Speedway city, of course.
No, it's not. We were actually away living in Tenerife. I lived in Tenerife for 3 years and came back at the age of 11. And my dad had always done road racing sidecars, and so I've always been around bikes. And he saw an advert for junior grass track racing at the Shea at Halifax. So we went and had a look there, and ended up buying a bike from John Armstrong for 100 quid, and we were there the next week competing.
What age were you then?
I was just short of 12 then.
Well, it's a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a few years ago, yeah, it's hard to remember.
Okay, so very quickly you must have got on. Tell us a little bit about how it went from then on.
Yeah, it started obviously once we realised that I was keen and I was sort of doing okay at it, and we'd sort of bought some better equipment and started competing then at national level. I won all the Yorkshire, Lancashire and Cheshire Junior Championships, and then sort of got into the British Championships and did quite well in that. I think I finished third there 1 year, but I was always there or thereabouts, which was quite good.
We really became interested in you, I guess, when you were hitting big scores for Newcastle. You followed the same route that Bjarne Pedersen, of course, from Newcastle to Poole. Big jump from Premier League to Elite League. What was that like?
Oh, it's amazing. I wouldn't say it's altogether as daunting as that, perhaps, because you tend to find that the lower level of the your second strings and your reserves from John can sort of look at to beat quite depth with them, and then sometimes you'll beat an odd heat leader and it sort of boosts your confidence a bit. So yeah, they're not worlds apart, but yeah, it's a big move, and obviously just in awe of Tony Ricardson.
Well, I think a lot of us are, but obviously, do you enjoy the racing as much in Elite as you do in Premier? Is it harder work? Is it more applied?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to treat it with a lot more respect and try a lot harder to get less points. So sometimes you don't sort of feel the benefit, because I can go back to Sheffield and get a maximum the night after, and feel really great. And I've probably done as good a job here if I've got 6 points, something like that. So it's difficult just to try and understand that and appreciate that you have had a good meeting if you're only scoring sort of 5-6 points.
Is there a big difference between the equipment that you need to compete regularly here as opposed to where you were in the Premier? Is it much the same? And what sort of workshop facilities do you have to have?
No, I think everything's pretty much the same. Obviously we're working as well. I sort of struggle for time, and I've got a guy, one of my friends has got a car racing team, and we've sort of done a bit of a deal so that they prepare the bikes and everything for the meetings. So as far as workshop, that's they look after that. But going back to the equipment, I think all the top lads in the Premier League are all on gear that's as good as you find in the Elite League.
In fact, I know that you're travelling down from Leeds, because that is still your home. Travelling down from Leeds now, and in fact flying down very shortly to join the Pirates.
Yeah, still waiting for another rolling chassis to turn up, and obviously, well, I think we've got the bulk of it there. We're just waiting for the actual diamond now, and then once that turns up, then I can leave a bike down here and fly down because the flight from Manchester to Southampton, which Manchester, me living on the M6, right on the M62, is only sort of 40 minutes away from me. So that'll be, it'll save me a lot of time and a lot of pressure, because as it is, it's sort of a 5-hour drive down here, which it's a long way. And obviously to race and then travel back the same night and be ready for Sheffield the next day, it takes its toll. For sure.
Tell me a little bit about your family life. We don't know that much about you, but family life and home life?
Well, I live with my girlfriend in a village called Oakenshaw, which is not far from Leeds. We're just in the middle of getting a Rhodesian Ridgeback, so we've got a little puppy to pick up next weekend on Sunday, actually. So that's probably the start of our family, really.
Absolutely. Well, obviously everybody needs something to focus on. What are the things in life that perhaps Andre wouldn't do without?
Cars, really. I love cars, and I've always been interested in cars, motorbikes, anything like that, but I really have got sort of a bit of a fetish for cars.
Tony Ricardson, I guess, likes cars as well. Do you ever thought about racing in the car world rather than on two wheels?
I would do, yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I've done track days and everything with my friend who races in the European FIA Championship for Porsche, and he certainly thinks that I've got enough talent to be able to do it, but the problem is that out of the whole championship and the European Championship, there are only 3 drivers that are actually paid drives. The rest of them, people are, they're having to fork out £250,000 to drive for a team. So, from that point of view, I just can't afford to go anywhere near it as much as I would like to.
Well, in some ways we're glad to hear that, because it's nice to see that you'll still be with the Pirates. What's been the best thing about riding for the Pirates, do you think?
It's fantastic. It's just a completely different level from anywhere else I've been racing. You come down here, the crowds are absolutely phenomenal. The setup, the promoters, everything. It's just such a nice place to come. For me, really, I could have gone to Bellevue or Oxford, Coventry, anywhere really would be a lot closer than Poole. But I definitely think it's worth the trip down here.
Have you got any treasured memories already of the time with Poole? Any particular favourite moments?
Yeah, I had a couple of meetings at the start of last season. I'm still not sort of hit the form that I'd like to hit this year, but I had a couple of good meetings last year, and it was nice to a couple of times manage to follow Tony Ricardsson home and have a 5-1 with him, that was really nice.
Yeah, I guess that's special. What about things to forget? Is there anything that you'd rather forget about at this stage?
No, not yet, but I think it's still early days, and probably my first couple of meetings, I'd rather forget them and work onto some better ones, but apart from that, not much.
Well, you mentioned Tony, and obviously he's a big influence on everybody. Everybody talks about him being #1 in the world. Which other riders do you think have influenced you over the period of time, and particularly now?
I think sort of over the last probably 3-4 years, I'd have to say Peter Carr has been the biggest influence on me, really. He's an absolute unbelievable professional. His equipment's fantastic. His knowledge of the sport is unbelievable, and I think he's always been sort of very underrated, and he probably doesn't push himself as hard as he ought to do. I think if he pushed himself and applied himself a little bit more, he would probably go a little bit further, even at his age that he's at now.
Now that you're settled in Speedway and you've got plenty of experience under your belt, is there anything that you'd like to change if you had the opportunity? Are you happy with things as they are, or do you see opportunities for change?
No, I mean this year I've actually got my hands on two engines from Anton Nischler, which that's been sort of a big part of my sort of career, really. That I've always struggled. I've always felt like I've been down on power, and I've always been struggling to to be up there with the big engine tuners. And not sort of had the right treatment, but the engines I've got now are really good, although this doesn't seem to be showing just yet. The setups are totally different from what I've been doing myself, because the last 2 years I've been preparing my own engines, so I'm just having to get used to setting things up differently and knowing when to change things and how to change things to get the best out of them. But I'm sure as time progresses it's going to be very effective. And
do you think that you've got goals this year that you've set for yourself?
Absolutely, yeah. I want to, improve myself a lot in the Elite League, and the Premier League. I've already sort of decided I'd like to get myself as near to a 10-point average as I could. I think that's where I ought to be. But probably riding at Sheffield now as opposed to Newcastle, I tend to ride the home track better. And as long as I can keep my away performances up, having a bit of a home track advantage, I should be somewhere there, I think.
And what about the continent? Is that something that you'd like to break into? Obviously, not something I wouldn't think which is practical when you're doubling up like you are, but in the future?
No, I mean, I've raced abroad. I've got a meeting in France in May. I'm quite happy to do the odd open meeting, but I'm not really looking to commit myself to racing in Poland or Sweden. I'm quite happy with what I'm doing in England. It takes up a lot of time, and obviously working full-time as well, I wouldn't have the time to do it, so I've got to sort of be sensible about it, and which is why another reason really for doubling up, because I wanted to do more meetings and try and get on a little bit in the sport. But obviously racing abroad was going to be out of the question from the timescale point of view, so doubling up within the country was something I could sort of do quite acceptably.
Any other long-term goals?
Yeah, I mean, I've always sort of liked to get into Grand Prix, but obviously getting 25 now and thinking, it's getting a little bit further away, but you never know. I mean, obviously, I think this year is going to be a turning point for me with, having really good equipment behind me. I think I'll be able to assess it more accurately at the end of this year and see how this year goes and see whether it's sort of realistic in the future.
Okay, well, it's great to talk to you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Andre, and you certainly set a dash on the track, which I know you've appealed to the spectators in a big way, and hope you continue to do so for a long time to come.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Well, our grateful thanks to Andre, and indeed now it's time to go racing once again as we continue the story of the 2003 Pirates here on Pirate Videos.